Hey YouTube, this is Jaden coming at you on Team Shadow Strike, and I got a couple of new deck profiles to show you guys. So this is going to be a deck profile that I have been wanting to finish for a long time, and it's a deck that I kept meaning to finish, and I just new stuff kept coming out and it kept getting put off. And this last couple of weeks, I decided I was going to go ahead and finish it no matter what, and I'm very glad I did. I did some test playing with this at my locals. Saturday, and also this past week, also in general. But it's a lot of fun to play. Obviously, as you can tell by the thumbnail, it is a great nature deck. This deck, my deck centers around the success abilities. The only thing I do not have for this deck is I do not have the new Big Belly that came out in Trinity Dragon, but it honestly is working just fine without it. I'm still going to pick up, it's like something Teacher's Cane Big Belly. I'm going to still pick some of him up, but and then I'll be playing both Big Bellies and other things. But I'll when I get to the grade 3s, I'll explain what I'll change. This also has the new support for from Fighters Collection with all the GB8 stuff. I will tell you, I did get a lot of the Fighters Collection stuff, and I got pretty much everything I'm going to want for all my decks. The only thing is, I don't really know if you guys want to see updated deck profiles for everything just because of the Fighters Collection. If there is a certain deck profile that you want to see me do that has been updated with the Fighters Collection stuff from from Fighters Collection 2017, you can leave it in the comment section below, and I will do it. So it is, you know, that is, if that is something you want me to do, I will. It's just, I didn't want to start making a bunch of deck profiles that basically were the same thing if you guys don't want to see it. So if you do want to see decks updated with the Fighters Collection stuff, just let me know. So anyway, let's jump straight into this Great Nature deck profile. So for size zeros, my starter I play is the starter that came out in GBTO2, Pencil Koala. Pencil Koala is, he obviously has the Forerunner skill. His skill is Generation Break 1. When an attack hits a Vanguard during the battle that this unit boosted, choose one of your other rear guards, and you may have it gain plus 4,000 power until end of turn. If you do, at the end of the turn, you can retire that unit, and you may draw a card. I like this because it's free. It gives you another draw, so you can stack it on a card that's already going to retire and draw another one. So essentially, you can draw 2, and you know your draw abilities just can keep stacking and stacking and stacking. Great Nature, you know, usually has a pretty sizable hand, and that's what makes them very, very hard to deal with at times. That I do Pencil Koala. For triggers, we play 4 copies of Application Researcher Pawnbelly. This is just your Heart Thump clone for Big Belly. Your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Big Belly and its card name attacks, you can place this in the soul, give it plus 5,000 power, and draw cards. So play that. And then we also play 4 copies of Holder Hedgehog. I want to get the promo versions of this card that are foil, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. That'll be one thing I try and do earlier. This is something I'm probably going to get ridiculed for, but I also play 4 copies of Castanet Donkey. I know you're saying this deck draws a crap ton, so why would you be playing draw triggers? The thing is I like having soul, and I don't want to be without it. So I like having these as a way to be able to increase my soul. I do play one other card that puts a card in the soul, but I don't know. I mean, I have thought of... I'm going to be test playing this card out from quantities and maybe drop down to only 2 of it to not really use it as a draw trigger, since you'll be mass drawing so much at that point. You'll be drawing it just as a random card, but then you could use it to just increase your soul if need be. But this is what it's going with right now. I realize this is not really normal. I mean, there's a lot of people, they'll either go 12 crit or they'll go 8 crit 4 stand. But, so, I mean, I just don't want to be without Soul, because some of your rear guards use it, some of your strides use it, you know, so I just want to be able to increase it if I can. And, you know, in the early game, if you don't necessarily draw good, these can save you then. So I know it's a risk, but it's a calculated risk. And so far, I have not decked out, because you normally win by your second or third stride if you start getting your things going and your power just starts stacking up, and you will. This deck really shrinks your opponent's advantage very, very quick, because the attacks and the multiple attacks that you can pull off that just really shrink their hand. And then finally, we have 4 copies of the brand new heal trigger from Fighters Collection 2017 in the form of Refugee Spangled. So Spangled, he has an ability. When he is discarded from the hand for the cost of a G Guardian called Sheltered Harris Spangled from the G Zone, if the number of face-up cards in your damage zone is 1 or less, you may pay the cost. If you do, you can countercharge 1. So that's there if you want to use that ability to countercharge. So that's nice. And so that is our triggered lineup. For our grade 1s, we play 4 copies of Contradictory Instructor Shellmaster. This deck does counterblast a fair amount. You do counterblast pretty much every turn, so you do want to be able to do some countercharging. So we play the G Perfect Guard that lets us unflip. Next, we play 4 copies of Diligent Assistant Mini Belly. This is just your standard Stride Fodder Steam Breath clone. You can place this on a rear guard, reveal a grade 3 to your opponent, search out a card with Big Belly and its card name, add him to your hand, and then discard 1 card, and then you can pitch it to Stride. So, pretty standard. And then we play 3 copies of Scholarship Student Airbelly. Part of the reason I love this deck is pandas are one of my favorite animals. I refer to this deck as March of the Pandas. But anyway, grade 1 from TCB02, so Trinity Dragon. He has 2 abilities. The first one is Rear Guard. If you have a Vanguard with Big Belly and its card name, this card cannot be retired by card effects. So you can kind of use this to stack some effects on to gain pluses without having to necessarily pay the cost. So like your draw effects and things like that, which is really good. And then its other ability is Generation Break 1, Soul Blast. When this unit boosts a rear guard with the success ability, you may pay the cost. If you do, the boosted unit gets an additional 4,000 power until the end of that battle, and at the end of the turn, retire that unit. So if you have a unit in front of him that is going to be retired anyway because he's been increased by, he's been buffed by some other ability, you can use his ability just to give him even more power and basically make him an 11k booster to make your numbers a bit bigger and harder for your opponent to deal with. And then finally, we play 3 copies of Label Pangolin. This is a promo, so it can be a little hard to find, but fortunately I have a friend who has hoarded Great Nature since the dawn of time, so thank you, Lyndon, for giving me these. So Generation Break 1. During your main phase, when this unit is placed on the rear guard, choose one of your other rear guards, and until the end of that turn, it gets the skill of, at the end of the battle that this unit attacked a Vanguard, if that unit's power is 20,000 or greater, Soul Charge 1, and choose a card from your damage zone and turn face up. So this can help you regulate your soul a little more. I was at first playing 3 copies of Airbelly and 2 Pangolin, but I dropped 1 Airbelly to put in a 3rd Pangolin because I do like him. So this is the grade 1 lineup that I've been using, and it's been working very well for me. So. Grade 2s, we play 4 copies of Crayon Tiger. Crayon Tiger is Great Nature's mascot. I'm almost sure everyone would agree with that. So Crayon Tiger, grade 2, its ability is Generation Break 1. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, if this unit is boosted, you can counterblast 1. If you do, choose one of your other rear guards and stand it. It gets an additional 4,000 power until end of turn, and at the end of the turn, retire that unit and draw a card. So you can use this to increase your advantage even more. But, just be careful and selective when you play this, because your opponent will most likely do whatever they have to get rid of it. Next, we play 4 copies of Problem Child Greybelly. So Problem Child Greybelly, his ability is Success 20,000. Generation Break 1 and Soul Blast 1. When this unit is successful and attacks the Vanguard, if you have a Vanguard with Big Belly in its card name, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose up to 2 of your other rear guards, and until end of turn, they get plus 4,000 power. And the skill of, at the end of the turn, you retire those units and draw a card. So he can buff 2 units and drop them both, so you can draw 2 cards. So he is really, really good. All the grade 2 rear guards that I play are exceptional. The Great Nature Clan has some access to some of the best grade 2s out there. And then finally, we play 4 copies of Lesser Rider. So Lesser Rider, or I just call him Tanuki. His ability is Success 20,000. He has 2 skills. First is Rear Guard. If this unit is successful, all of your units with Success ability get plus 2,000 power. And then the other skill is Act. Once per turn, you may Soul Blast a card. If you do, this unit becomes successful until end of turn, and at the end of that turn, retire this unit. So you can use him to activate your success if you're a little short of the numbers. So he can help you out with that, and he can increase your field. He can increase the power of every other unit on the field that has success. So that's a thing. Going into grade 3s, at the moment we're playing 4 copies of Famous Professor Big Belly. So Famous Professor Big Belly, this came out in GBTO2. So he has 2 abilities. The first one is Generation Break 2. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, choose one of your rear guards. It gets plus 4,000 power until end of turn. At the end of that turn, draw a card and retire that unit. So it's basically Crayon Tiger's ability without the ability to restand it. So it's good because you can, if you find yourself that you just can't stride, you can create a pretty good turn if you have access to a Crayon Tiger, or the other grade 3 we have, which we'll probably give that away. But the other ability he has is when you stride on this unit, you can counterblast 1. If you do, choose up to 2 of your rear guards, and until the end of the turn, they get plus 4,000 power. And then also the skill of when an attack by a unit in the same column as this unit hits a Vanguard, if the attacking unit's power is 20,000 or greater, you get to draw a card. So that's really good. Your power is going to be very, very high, so there is a pretty good chance that you're going to get some attacks through to draw some cards. Very good card. And then finally we play 3 copies of Horton Hears a Who. Horton Hears a Who, his ability is Generation Break 1. Whenever this unit attacks a Vanguard, on the Vanguard or Rear Guard circle, by the way, whenever this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can counterblast 1. If you do, choose one of your other rear guards and stand it, and it gets plus 4,000 power until end of turn, and at the end of the turn, retire that unit. So it's Crayon Tiger, but he doesn't have to be boosted, and you don't draw a card off of it. But it is a very good unit. I want to get some Teacher Kane, the other Big Belly, and what I'll probably do is play 3 of each Big Belly, and then 2 Horton Hears a Who. Or if you don't know his real name is Contradictory Instructor Tuskmaster, but everybody just calls him Horton Hears a Who. But anywho, that is his name is Horton Hears a Who. Anywho, but that is grade 3s. Now for G Zone. Yeah, that'll throw them off. Minerva Sleeves. So, first, we're playing one copy of Omniscience Dragon, Rimthurs, I think. So, Vanguard, Soul Blast 1. At the end of the battle that this unit attacked Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your rear guards and it gets plus 4,000 power until end of turn. Then you may have that unit get plus 4,000 power. If you do, at the end of that turn, retire the unit. And if the unit chosen with this effect is 20,000 or greater, you draw a card. So the idea here is when after his battle, you Soul Blast one card, you choose a rear guard, and it gets 4,000 power. And then you can have it gain 4,000 power. So essentially, you can choose one rear guard and have it gain 8. And then at the end of the turn, it's retired, and if it had 20,000 or greater, you draw a card. So that's a thing. Then we play one copy of Omniscience Dragon, Wisdom Teller Dragon. There's a couple one-ofs in this deck. So this is, I mean, to be real honest, playing a second Rhythmers is really not a bad thing. It's just I like this card, so I play it. If you're going to be having a slow turn, say your opponent has a pretty sizable hand, they're only at like 2 damage, so you're not really ready to make a good push, but they have a dwindled hand or the situation presents itself. This is actually a pretty good thing to do. You can just go into this, they let this hit, and then you get to give away another plus 4K and the ability to draw another card. So he is free. So I'll go ahead and read him just in case you don't know what he does. When this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, choose one of your other rear guards until end of turn. It gets plus 4,000 power. And at the end of the turn, when this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, if this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, choose one of your rear guards. It gets plus 4,000 power. And then if its attack hits your opponent's Vanguard and its power is 20,000 or greater, you get to draw a card. So it's there. Next, we play 2 copies of Omniscience Dragon, a Fank. You might be saying why 2, because most people really only use one. Well, part of the reason is I was able to get 2 of the SGRs. And the real reason is when you go into him, you have to flip something. So most likely, I'm just going to flip the second one, because the unit that I normally flip was just something I was going to splash in remember the Grade 4 Great Nature unit that came out a long time ago and then was banned at a certain time? It actually had a date written on it when the card was going to get banned. I was playing one of it just so he could flip that, but I put this back in there just because. But it doesn't really matter. But anyway, his ability is Counterblast 1 and choose a face-down card from your G-Zone and turn it face up. Choose any number of your rear guards until the end of turn. They get the continuous effect of this unit cannot be retired by card effects. And for each rear guard chosen with this effect, this unit gets plus 4,000 power. So if you have a full field, he becomes 46 on his own, gains 20,000 power. So it's a good card, you know. I just never go into him twice, but that's why I have 2 of them in here, so I can flip one for the other. So that's why that's there. Next, we have our go-to boss stride, I guess you could say. And that is 4 copies of Sage Saint Professor Big Belly. So, Sage Saint Big Belly, his ability is Generation Break 2. Counterblast 1 and choose a face-down card named Sage Saint Professor Big Belly from your G-Zone and turn it face up. Choose one of your rear guards, and it gets plus 4,000 power for each face-up card in your G-Zone until end of turn. And then choose one of your units, and until the end, it gets the ability of Vanguard Rear Guard. When this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, choose up to the same number of your other rear guards as the number of face-up cards in your G-Zone and stand them. So what you can do is just choose one of your rear guards, buff the hell out of it, and then give the standing effect to your Vanguard. So if your Vanguard's attack does hit them, they then will have to let you stand up some of your rear guards. So next we only play 2 copies of Omniscience Dragon Managmar. Managmar is a good card. It's just I never see myself. I always go into Sage Saint a second time, but because I have 4, but I never went into to it a second time. He is a good card, especially if your opponent has a sizable hand. You can use it to eat away at it. His ability is Act once per turn. Counterblast 1 and choose a face-down card named Omniscience Dragon Magnemar from your G-Zone and turn it face up. If the number of face-up cards in your G-Zone is 2 or more, so essentially he's Generation Break 2, choose up to 2 of your rear guards, and until the end of turn they get plus 4,000 power, and the skill of, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if the unit's power is 20,000 or greater, until the end of that battle, your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from their hand to the Guardian Circle. So if you can get your 2 rear guards over 20, which is real easy to do with Big Belly and this card and your other abilities that you have in the deck, they basically become, they gain glory skills. So you can use this to get your opponent's G Guardians out of their hand, or just make them dump a ton of shield if you can. So there's that. 2's fine. I have found that I liked opening up those 2 other slots a lot more, because at the time I didn't play Rhythmers or Wisdom Teller. I just played 2 Afank, 4 Sage Saint, and then 4 this, and it was just a little cloggy. So taking 2 of these out was a good call, because you really don't need 4 of them. And with G Guardians floating around, he's not exactly the best. He's lost a little bit of his pep. Now, when he very first came out, he was really, really good because G Guardians weren't a thing then. But he is still good, and that's why we still play him at 2. But I would not recommend you playing him at 4. And then we play 1 copy of Immortality Professor Saharasavira. This is Great Nature's GB8 unit from Fighters Collection 2017. This card is broke as fuck. This was one of those G units that me and a lot of people at my locals, we misread. Because when we very first read it, most of the G units, they're once per turn, and they're all auto skills. So we kind of brushed over this a little too much, and we didn't realize how stupid he is. So his ability is Generation Break 8, which is pretty easy when you look at this G-Zone to get to, because if you go into a Fank, he flips something, your Sage Saint flips something, Managmar flips something, plus your G Guardians. Hitting GB8 is pretty easy. So his ability is Act, Generation Break 8. Choose 2 cards from your hand and discard them. Choose up to 5 of your rear guards until the end of turn. They get plus 10,000 power. And the skill of, at the end of your turn, retire this unit. And then the other skill is, and if the number of cards in your hand is 1 or less, this unit gets plus 40,000 power and plus 1 critical. So if you have like 8 cards in your hand at this point, you can just discard 2, buff your field, 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 and then he's going to gain 40,000 power plus 1 crit, and your rear guards in that scenario, if you had 8 cards in your hand, just all your rear guards just gain 40,000 power each. So your rear guards are going to be in the 100,000s, which I have done with this deck, and it is a nightmare for your opponent at this point, because if they've lasted to GB8, if they stay alive long enough and you spring this on them, they have already probably dumped a few of their heal triggers for G guards. They've probably already used a couple of their perfect guards, or the rest of them are in the damage or the drop. And dealing with this will be extremely hard for them to deal with, so they'll be having to rely probably on a heal trigger somewhere in there. You know, when you do get it off, it is very, very good. Definitely add this to your Great Nature deck. There's some of the GB8 units that are really good, and then there's some of them that are not so good. This is definitely one I would add to your Great Nature deck, if you play Great Nature, that is. So then for our G Guardians, we play 2 copies of Immortality Professor Kundalani. So Kundalani, his ability is he came out of the Fighters Collection when the G Guards were announced. When this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, choose one of your rear guards, and you may have it gain the skill of, at the end of each turn, retire this unit and countercharge 1 until end of turn. So technically a misprint there. It should be at the end of the turn. Retire this unit and countercharge 1 until end of turn. And then if you do, this unit gets plus 5,000 until end of battle. So it becomes a 20k shield. But the main reason it's there is so we can countercharge. Then we play 1 copy of the Head of the Bastion, Ardilio. And Ardilio, he came out of Trinity Dragon. His ability is when this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, choose any number of your rear guards and retire them. And if the number of your open rear guards is 3 or more, this unit gets plus 10,000 power. So if you have 3 open rear guard circles, you can just call this and it becomes a 25k shield. So you can use that to guard some attacks in the early game. So there's that. Then we play 1 copy of Omniscience Dragon Almiraj. So Almiraj, he came out of I don't know where he came out of at all. GCHBO2. Okay, so his ability is when this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose up to 2 cards from your hand and call them to separate rear guards, and then choose up to 4 of your rear guards until the end of turn, and they get rear guard or Guardian, resist, and continuous ability of if this unit is hit, it does not retire. So if you say you don't have a field and you're going to stride next turn, and you won't have any units to buff with your big belly, you can use this and call 2 units out, and then you can protect your field. So that's really good. And then we play 1 copy of the new G Guardian from Fighters Collection, Sheltered Hyris Spangled. So this is the heal trigger. This is the G Guardian that you goes with the heal trigger. So just for quick second, I'm going to reread to you this the heal trigger. It's Soul Blast 1. When this card is discarded from the hand to pay the cost of calling this G Guardian from your G zone, if the number of face-up cards in your damage zone is 1 or less, you may pay the cost of Soul Blast 1, and then you can countercharge 1. And then the G Guardian's effect is Generation Break 1, Counterblast 1, and choose a face-down G Guardian from your G zone and turn it face-up. When this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose any number of your Grade 3 or less Guardians until the end of battle, and they get when this unit is retired from the Guardian Circle, you may draw a card. So you can use this to guard some big attacks, and then all the units that you place in the Guardian Circle, you're going to get to draw another card for them, so you'll be able to replenish your hand. So it's actually very good as a one of. That is pretty much it. So that is my Great Nature deck. I'm really glad that I finally have this done. I had a Great Nature deck way back in the day, like back during the original Leopold days, and just never continued with the deck. But I'm glad I finally finished it again, because Great Nature is definitely a very fun clan, and it is extremely good. And I actually think it's a dark horse in the meta right now because of its ability to generate a massive hand while dishing out pretty heavy attacks. I really think this deck could be successful if in the meta, as long as, someone was playing it right, because Great Nature can get a little complicated. You have to know when to do certain things, but you can say that about almost any deck, I guess. But Great Nature definitely is a lot of fun to play, and I do think it does have I do honestly think that you could say that this deck has a very good chance of doing well in a upper level event. There are some people who don't think that, but I definitely do, and I enjoy playing Great Nature. I would highly recommend it to you if you're looking for another deck to play, or another deck building project for yourself, definitely consider building Great Nature. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you leave all your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. If you have any suggestions for the deck, please feel free to share them with me. I always like to hear what you guys have to say, or if you have suggestions, I always love to hear them. So I hope you all are doing well wherever you are, and I will talk to you next time.